Listen to Dhamma on the Sidewalk, insights, interviews, and practical tips on the teachings of the Buddha for people of all walks of life, attuning, exploring, integrating the teachings in everyday life. Simple Dhamma for daily life. I'm Asoka, hosting Dhamma Capsule for people like you. Hello, welcome to Dhamma on the Sidewalk. The following reflections are recorded from Bodhgaya. At the moment, so mid-January 2024, Bodhgaya is hosting the Nyingma Monlam Chanting Festival. And that already is a podcast on its own. In a nutshell, within the Tibetan traditions, there are four main schools. The Nyingma school, the Kagyu school, the Shakya school, and the Gelugpa school. You might know that, for instance, His Holiness the Dalai Lama belongs to the Gelugpa school. The Karmapa belong to the Kagyu school, etc., etc. So each of these schools during the month that runs between mid-December to mid-January, most of the time, every year. The dates can change depending on the moon and other festivals, but that's about roughly that period of time. Each school runs about a 10 days long Monlam chanting festival. So that is that they chanting, it's a recollection of the root sutras, and it's a main event for each of these schools. So all the monastics from these schools gather together, and that's a lot. That's a lot of monastic nuns and monks coming from all parts of India and Tibet, Bhutan, and the Himalayas, basically. And the Mahabodhi grounds, where the Mahabodhi tree is located, becomes the stage of these main Monlam chanting, and it fills itself with thousands of monastics. There are also all the pilgrims from these regions. So that means Sikkim, Darjeeling, Bhutan, Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, Nepal, and so forth. Plus, the Dalai Lama is in Bodhgaya since mid-December, and will leave very soon. So that also his presence also attracts tens of thousands of pilgrims. It's all interconnected. And also he gave some teachings on the he gave teachings on the 29th, 30th, and 31st of December 2023, and then attended a long life prayer and long life blessings on the 1st of January at the Kala Chakra grounds in central Bodhgaya. So that makes a lot of activities around this small, urban, very small, very tiny village that actually is Bodhgaya. Bodhgaya isn't the whole of Gaya. Gaya is a city which is 10 kilometers away from Bodhgaya, but it's rather small and dedicated entirely to religious and spiritual and pilgrimage. And therefore it makes a lot of movement of people and crowds here and there. So I would say for the teachings of the Dalai Lama and the long life blessings at the Kalachakra ground, easily were 70,000 people, easily. All together, monastics and non-monastics. It was just the largest, quietest, calm and kindest crowd I've ever been in. And I'm not really a very crowd person. I'm a bit crowd averse, I would say. But in this case, it was a cultural experience of sitting there, because in these crowds are comprising of, let's call Himalayan people. So there are a lot of foreigners, but it's probably 10%, not even 10%. Plus there are all the other monks, all the Indians, the sadhus and everything. So it's a lot. It's really a lot. And it's cultural experience to be seated there and to just experience this devotion, expressions of respect and devotion, but very calmly. There's no ostentatious, there's no outwardly, nobody's shouting or crying, or everything is very calm, very calm. But it's a lot of people. So I'm recording this now at Bodhgaya, a day after having had a chance to pay respect to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I can't say that it wasn't a highlight of my aspirations, because as a practicing Buddhist since I was 20 years old, so that's a lot of decades, I have always nurtured respect for him and appreciation for all that he's doing. But I've never been in his presence. I've never been in a room. I've never been around him. I've never been in the same place at the same time, simply because I never thought this would ever happen. But when I planned the pilgrimage, I realized that it could be a chance, but I didn't know it would actually happen because I didn't even know the logistics or anything. So it unfolded a bit out of karmic connections, I guess. It was an intention to be here for his teachings. And I made sure I did that once I realized that the dates were matching. Then I said to someone, oh, it would be nice I would love to meet him. He's coming of age, and I'm not sure how many times I'll come to India. I'm again here, and I've never been to Dharamsala, but now I'm here in Bodhgaya. So causes and conditions have been put together, and according to the tradition and according to Buddhism, there is when certain elements are put together, it can happen. It's not just Buddhism that says that, but under certain circumstances, receiving a teaching from a certain representative of the tradition in Bodhgaya, the Mecca for Buddhists, as Mecca can be a spot for Muslim, or as Vatican can be for Christians, although all these are happening in completely different conditions and in completely different protocols. Bodhgaya is an important spot. There are 7 holy spots and 4 major holy spots. So it is considered that to receive those teachings from a higher person in Bodhgaya is very good karma. So let's take it this way. And I realized that it would be possible that the Dalai Lama does offer the possibility to meet him. And I found out my way, and and develop more patience than I thought I had, because it required a lot of queuing up and trying to gather the information. It's very well organized. There were tireless people working under his office, and a lot of appreciation for them to make this possible. Yet, it requires some navigation of administrative matters, passport copies and visas. So we are screened, and tight security as well. So eventually, it did happen. And I'm yet to distill a bit what has occurred there. I would say that it became clear that once there's an intention set up and then we let it unfold, if it is meant, it meant, it will happen. There's no need to rush, and there's no need to push. And observe the mind. I was observing my mind when these whole administrative procedures were unfolding, and I realized that it was a shuffling from patience and determination into let go, don't push it, it will happen. And then I had a dream one night where I was telling myself, it doesn't matter. I went to sleep and say, it doesn't matter, just let it happen. But then I had this vision. It was not really a dream, it was more like an awakened state, a trance state, where I just, the Dalai Lama entered my realm, and I had his hand on my head. So from that day, I said, okay, I let it happen. But interestingly, it's a 1 minute or a 2 minute event in the span of the 6 weeks that I've eventually spent in the region, and out of which 5 weeks in Bodhgaya. And I've witnessed a shift of energies between the early December Tipitaka Chanting Festival, the subsequent all others, Tibetan tradition, Monlam Chanting Festival. Seen Bodhgaya Mahabodhi grounds passing from being covered with saffron robes and a few red robes here and there, and the typical chanting of the Tipitaka and the pace of chanting of the Thai, Cambodian, Sri Lankan, Indian, Western chanting tone, shifting in decoration. Also, the type of decorations changed as well at the Mahabodhi ground. In the city, all the city started to welcome Dalai Lama. The color changed. We got some red, blue, and added green. So the saffron robe started to fade away, and then the city started to become a copycat of what Lhasa could be, of what a Himalayan dwelling could be. It's just thousands and thousands of monastics and pilgrims from that region. What I have observed is devotion. I've observed calm, steady, resolved, beautiful peer support amongst them. Bhutanese, Ladakhi, Tibetan, they share this common, there is this sharing commonality of having the Dalai Lama is a religious leader, as a Buddhist religious figure, as a cultural icon, and then obviously as a political leader. So all of that put together, it just become devotion. Devotion. I've seen people making prostrations at any spot, not just at the Mahabodhi tree, but some of them would do that at the closed door of the monastery where he is staying, which is opposite the Mahabodhi Society grounds. I've seen people prostrating while waiting in line, queuing up for a pass. I've seen a country stick together. I've seen a culture of people sticking together for the same purpose. Different countries, same purpose. It's beautiful. And all of that is calm. All of that, there's so much of a peer support exchanges. I've had a number of conversations with people, even though English is not necessarily their, a language that they practice, but there are eyesights, there's support, there's little gestures, and all of that without taking pictures because phones are not allowed. Most of these events I've gone without a bag, without even my bag. It just has a few rupees and my keys, the keys of my room in my pocket. So all of that is recorded in my consciousness. There aren't any physical, visible traces of that. I can only share these words, and even these words most likely do not convey the entirety of the experience. Just imagine foggy morning in the Himalayas. We are in Bihar, so it's really very low plains. The Himalayas just next door. So let's say the plains before the Himalayas. A foggy morning, 6:30, walking towards the monastery, just a few meters away, where the Dalai Lama is staying, where the doors are closed and reinforced with sandbags, army and police and security, bodyguards and security people on the roofs everywhere for the past month. So imagine walking there and already meeting people I know and monks I know, and everything seems like so natural, like we are in a different dimension, and we're walking, we're queuing up, women on the side, men on the side, on the other side. We have our little pass to enter, and we are searched. Just after passing the door, we're searched. Throughout church, no thorough church, no items, nothing. We can only go with, I actually did leave my bag in the room, but we can only go empty hands, basically. So the bags are put on one side, they're searched, but they're put on one side. They even opened the kata I had, the scarf, to see. They opened the envelope. I had an envelope, flat envelope with money in it for offering. It was opened to check. I had a pen in my pocket. I wanted to write a note. They removed the pen. No pens are allowed, no Bluetooth, no electronics, nothing. And then after that, we sit on the grounds of the monastery. On the one side, there are about 400 Tibetans, Bhutanese. You can recognize them by the clothing. So it's an approximate attempt to recognize them. Sitting already, most likely they've gone there very early. They do that. They just sit early. They just have patience to sit and roll the beads of the mala, and it's just constant. And then there are mats on the floor, and so they are sitting there, and we are seated. The foreigners are seated. Foreigners lay and monastics, anything that is foreigner, so that is not a Himalayan country, is seated on the other side. And we wait. We just sit down cross-legged and we wait. And with my usual curiosity, my eyes pacing and scanning everything that is happening, the security guards running here and there, everything done in the smoothest and quiet and pleasant way. And then there were some religious leaders from maybe, I don't know, Sikkim, Bhutan, with very ceremonial robes, quite beautiful to see. Very nice energy. So we bowed. There were some official dignitaries, Indian official dignitaries there. They all passed in front of, and then we started to move as foreigners, and we went upstairs, and it was again silent but very hushed but silent and smooth. And then we reached there to the Dalai Lama, and I was observing all these movements of people and the crowds, and I can't recall in my whole life a similar energy, a similar vibrancy, and at the same time a silent vibrancy, because nobody really talks. Everybody's meditating. Everybody's inward. Everything is happening inward. It's beautiful. And it can bring some people to tears. Or it can stir up some emotions. So it was that I wanted to convey, because I haven't, I think there was a sort of understanding that everyone is there because they had the same intention, but we're all there we bring there a different karma. So we bring there different, I would say, expression of this karma and different personal stories. And it was also nice to see Ukrainians sitting next to Russians. All these different Taiwanese sitting next to Thai and Vietnamese. And how do I know it? Because I've just happened to meet them constantly in the same places, so we talk, so I know where they're from. And that's another aspect, is that across all, we know that's happening in the conventional world. Here, nothing of all that is raised. Is a Russian is eating next to an Ukrainian in a restaurant. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. They talk to each other. Eventually, they speak the same language conventionally. It's not the same language, but they share the same language. So there was a group of people, and I said, we were just asking each other what to do, where to get the information for something. And I said, by the way, where are you from? And he said, oh, I'm from. I said, what language are you speaking? He said, oh, we are speaking in Russian, because I'm from Ukraine. So Russian is not my language, but I speak Russian because he is Russian. And I said to myself, this is just beautiful. This is just beautiful. Of course this is happening. Of course what's happening out there is only one level of experience. But I said, part of me, the qualities that the Dalai Lama expresses are, it's not this outward respect, it's heartfelt respect. It just remains speechless in front of him. Nobody talks in that room. We are like 50, and there's a lot of security around it. You can't stay more than a minute to a minute and a half. I don't know. I cannot measure. I could not measure time there. But definitely the whole thing was, we waited 45 minutes, but the whole thing happened in maybe 10 minutes, and and being with him probably, I would say maybe maximum a minute. And there are lots of security around. There are lots of people. There are people who actually, the security, the secretary of the Dalai Lama is actually not right there next to you, and he just, he takes you away, and he brings you in and takes you away. So there's lots of, there's not a sound, nothing. Beautiful. It's really beautiful. Then enormous appreciation for this man who is connected to a highest form of teaching, and who spent the last 10 days just seeing people. So if you count about 500 persons a day for 10 days, that's 5,000 people, and that's all he does from 7 to 9 o'clock every day. That morning, he wakes up every day at 3:30, does his meditation, does some exercise, prayer, and then does some exercise, so walking and physical exercises, then has breakfast, and then sees us, and then 9:30 has another small meal, and then goes about for his day every day, and goes to sleep maybe 8 o'clock, 8:30. So that's the kind of routine he has, and it's a giving, but it's a less selfless routine, and there's so much peace and radiance and luminosity around him that I'll keep that. I'll keep that for a long time. As for Bodhgaya, the energy of the city will continue to change. It changes according to all these traditions, how they have their chanting and festivals. Usually the month of February sees again saffron robes coming on, saffron robes and red robes, and comes a bit more quiet, and then they're coming for their personal retreats. And then in terms of and then March, the weather becomes warmer, and then April it gets warmer and warmer. So there are what is being called different nationalities reach. Those who don't like the cold weather, like now, it's a bit cold. It's about just between 8 and 12 degrees in the morning, and it can go up to 25 during the day, but it can roam around 20. It's considered cold because during the summer it's very, very hot. And those who don't like nationalities, who don't like the cold weather, tend not to be here. So in December, where it was still very, very pleasant weather, t-shirts, then there's a lot of Southeast Asian for the Tipitaka Chanting Festival, Vietnamese, Malaysian, Cambodians, Thai. There's a high number of Thai, and there's a very big support of Thai Sangha here. And okay, all the Himalayan people around now, end of the mid-December to now, end of December, February, and then into March, I am told, because I haven't experienced, I've been told by a monastic that usually March sees people from Burma and Sri Lanka. March, April is Burma, Sri Lanka, and then after that is the Indians who come and just stay and visit. They tend. We know that India is not necessarily a primarily Buddhist country, but there are a few spots of Buddhists here and there. So they come later because so this is Bodhgaya, different energies, very different energies, and the Mahabodhi grounds feels like really a melting pot of being. It just feels not being in India. But it's really looking around and feeling the energies. Bhutan, Sikkim, Darjeeling, Himachal Pradesh. I mean, but Tibetans. So they're coming from Himachal Pradesh, but they're Tibetans. Tibetan, 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 Bhutanese, Tibetan, Sikkim. So I'll close this with just that I'm still a bit speechless about all this experience of Bodhgaya. I wish that anyone who has an aspiration to experience these energies, just come and have a look in Bodhgaya. It is not, it's India, but it's not your typical Indian dwelling. And then as Buddhists, you want to visit around Sarnath and Vaishali and Kushinagar and other places. Definitely some time can be spent here. But Bodhgaya being a center, it is definitely a to-do stop for those who wish to see that and experience that. Having that mindset, it won't be possible to come and not blend like that. It just, you need to blend into Bodhgaya, otherwise it can really rough you up. It's not easy. And I wish you well. Thank you.